This is Here in My Time, and I am so thankful and excited you've tuned in to this very first season of my brand new podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Hunt, and I am so honored to say that this first season of 16 episodes, hour-long weekly segments, is actually sponsored by one of my favorite stores in downtown Huntington, Indiana. Can you tell the excitement in my voice? That's right, you've guessed it, Turn the Page Books and Music Store. Rex is the owner of this fine establishment. This is the place to go if you are looking for your next read or to add to your vinyl collection. It is jam-packed full of used books, everything from fiction to nonfiction, and of course a huge variety of records from rock and roll to Taylor Swift. And let me tell you, Rex is the perfect owner because he is a music library. If you need help picking out your first record or maybe adding to your collection, this is the man for you. Whenever you walk in the door, music is playing constantly. You got perfect lighting. You've got the wooden floors. It's the perfect vibe to enjoy your day in. So make sure you stop in and visit, and also follow him on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much, Rex, for your support. It means the world to me. Now on to the episode. This is Here in My Time, the podcast dedicated to bridging the gap between generations. I'm your host, Lauren Hunt, a local personal journalist, photographer, documentarian, and a lover of people and their stories, located right here in Wabash, Indiana. Now today I have the myth, the legend, the man behind the pen, in front of the mic for the first time, not the first time, but for the first time for me, David Nelson. You know him by the articles that you read, you know him by the cameraman at every event, and he's pretty all right, I'd have to say. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it.
I'm excited. I think we should give the audience a little bit of a caveat and let them know this is probably going to be everywhere and everything.
Probably, especially after a 12-hour day.
Yes,
So
no kidding.
This might not be good for my career.
Just knowing our conversations that we've had before, they usually are everywhere.
Yeah, that's going to go all over the place.
Which is good. So tell me a little bit about yourself. You know, a lot of people are going to know you by your work, but let's get behind the newspaper, okay?
Boy.
Let's kind of open.
Well, I know. What would you like to, when people you go on job interviews and they'd say, well, tell us about yourself. And I always say, well, what do you want to know? So just go ahead and ask it. It's fine. At this point, it's fine. Just what would you like to know? Because what I don't want to do is I don't want to bore you and I don't want to bore people. So we'll just cut to the quick. What would you like to know?
It's a typical journalist right here.
There you go.
All right. So tell me exactly the minute that you were born. Where, when, tell me about it.
I can do that. 310 February 27th at Marion General Hospital. A long time ago.
Wow. Okay.
50 plus years ago.
Oh my goodness.
Born in Marion General Hospital and almost moved immediately from Marion, Indiana. Moved to... Where did I move to? I think I lived everywhere. I wasn't even almost born in Indiana. It came close. Mom was with me, or pregnant with me, almost the whole duration in Washington State.
Oh wow!
She used to hike at the. I was in her belly, and she would hike Puget Sound and at the base of Mount Rainier. And so I really think that's where the love of nature was first instilled. So I came within very close of being born in Washington State. The family was originally from Indiana. I was born in Marion, Indiana, immediately moved. And then where did I move? We moved to Logansport, and then wasn't there very long, and then we moved to Wisconsin, and then I eventually came back to Indiana again. This is my fourth or fifth. I don't remember. I've moved a lot. Tour of duty here in Indiana.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've moved a lot in my life. I want to say I've moved 18 times.
Holy cow.
And out of state, I've only lived in 3 states, but I've moved within those. So I've lived in Indiana, Wisconsin, and Florida. Mm-hmm.
That's what's your favorite place? I mean, I know you moved back here, but if you could move or stay anywhere, where would you
Well, It wouldn't be Florida. Florida's a nice place to visit, but I've lived there a couple of times, and I don't have a desire to live there again. I do enjoy aspects of Wisconsin, only because I'm one of those oddities around here. I enjoy winter. I enjoy all 4 seasons, but I enjoy winter as well, as much as the other seasons. So in Wisconsin, there's an appreciation for wintertime. Life doesn't stop because there's snow on the ground there. Life doesn't stop because it's cold. They have winter festivals, and they do things outdoors, and so I appreciate that about it. There's other aspects of Indiana that I really enjoy, especially where we are here, from the northern portion of Indiana, the northern third. I really like. It's too crowded around Indianapolis for me. And I know that's where a lot of the population is hovering around in the state, but that's not for me.
Right. Well, tell me a little bit about your family dynamic. Well, we can already tell just by the fact that your mom was hiking with you.
Yeah.
She's kind of a spunk, a spitfire.
Yeah, she is. She's a handful. Yeah. Right now, I moved back to Indiana to take care of my mom. And all things considered, she's doing quite well. My father died when I was very young, and I was an only child. And I was not only an only child to my mom and dad, but I was the only child in the family for the first 12 years of my life.
Wow.
So I never got, I always felt more comfortable around older people. I'd go to school and really felt uncomfortable because I wasn't treated like a kid when I was little. Mom didn't baby talk. She never did. She talked to me like an adult, even when I was little. But she was not in a cold way, but just very conversational, and treated me as an intelligent young person, even when I was 2.
Wow.
So it was just probably very unorthodox compared to a lot of people. Again, you're the only child. There's no kids in the family. Most of the time when I was young, the neighbors, there weren't many kids in the neighborhood. Again, so I just grew up around older people until I got, 12, 13. I had a cousin that was born. But again, that's a big difference in age, 12 years.
Yeah.
And then through school, I had friends, but not a ton, just because, again, I wasn't used to being around kids other than during the school hours. And I was so bored in school that I didn't particularly enjoy that.
So what about, in your life, especially with the fact that not having a father at such a young age, was there somebody that kind of filled that role for you?
Well, that again, the family dynamics. My dad died when I was young, and then just 5 years later, my grandfather, who I was very close to, he passed away. So that was very, again, it was tough. I had a 5-year stretch in my life where Dad died, Mom got cancer, and my grandfather died.
Oh, wow.
So that was just in a 5-year span, and that's during your formative years from 12 to 17. That's so.
What do you think is the biggest effect from that time in your life? What do you think you learned about yourself?
Well, you have to grow up fast.
Yeah.
You go from a certain socioeconomic life to a very different life, and you move because of that. We moved in with my grandparents. And so you just have to grow up fast. And you see other people your age, your contemporaries, their problems you really can't relate to because to you that's not a big deal. The typical teen problems weren't my typical teen problems.
Right.
You're dealing with very serious issues, death, and you're losing loved ones, and financial situations created by that, because the money goes quickly. Especially my father owned his own business. Everything was wrapped up in that, and the money it took to fight the cancer, you'd do it 100 times out of 100. But it didn't help. So we lost pretty much everything. So
how do you think your family tried to deal in this situation? Did they try to have a positive outlook?
Oh, they were fantastic. I couldn't want a better family. Small but small but very strong, and very our faith is what kept us upright.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we'd be a mess, absolute mess. It's a family that's always been open and talked, and it can get loud at times, but that's not a bad thing.
No.
It was never a family to sweep things under the rug, or to you meet people and everything's fine, everything's good. There's no. It never seems like there's a problem, and you got to think, boy, those people are repressed beyond belief. There wasn't any repression in my house, in our home. It was all out there. It's a loud German family at times. So
German family.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the food culture. What kind of food did you grow up eating?
Well, it's varied through the years. For big get-togethers, there would be the brown gravy and noodles and mashed potatoes and that kind of thing, and there'd be sauerkraut, and there'd be coleslaw, and there would be all that sort of thing. But Mom and I really on our own ate very different than that. We're more, I guess, light fare kind of stuff, more grilled and salads and that pasta and that sort of thing. So not a lot of heavy starchy German food other than the celebratory occasions.
That's cool. Was there something that you remember, like your favorite meal that you, as a kid? I can only
well, it's not German. I'm partial to Italian food.
Italian food's the best.
Yeah, I like Italian.
Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day because around Easter, my family, when we all get together, Mama makes chicken and dumplings, and that's like her dish that only she can make it the way that we understand what it is, and it's like the best in the world. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, I should start asking people what their formative dish was, and that for us was chicken and dumplings for sure. Yeah. So describe yourself as a kid and growing up throughout high school. Beyond, we all know you're kind of more of an old soul, more comfortable around older people.
Well, there was, and like now, there's the public persona and there's the very private. I would go to school, and I was very much, I was personable, I was polite, I was a good kid, but I could be ornery, and I had a sense of humor, and people liked that about me. But come the time the bell would ring, whether that be whatever time that would be, then the personal side, and I would go off to myself. I wasn't one to hang out. I had friends and occasionally did things, and it's really like now. It's I occasionally you can get me out to dinner occasionally. You can get me if I'm not. The thing of it is, I see tons of shows, but it's on the professional level. I'm there photographing the shows. So to actually go to a show on my own, I will tell you, the last several years, the only show that I go to as a civilian is the Fort Wayne Philharmonic Christmas show at Honeywell. That's like mine. I won't shoot. That's like my time. I sit front row center and I just zone out and thoroughly enjoy that. That's been it. That's the only thing that I've been able to attend just for fun. Not that I thoroughly enjoy everything that I photograph or whatever at all the different events, but I'm also there to work. And so to attend something for fun around here, it's rare. But getting back to being a kid or whatever, at school nobody would ever. I think it's what probably intrigued people was they were. I've met people later on in life that I went to high school with, and they were like, well, we didn't know much about you, truly. And I would say to this day, there's not many people that truly know me, but I have the public side of me and I have the private side. And the private side, it's simply because I grew up an only child, the only kid in the family for so many years. And even then with no siblings, you create your own little world that your imagination takes. I mean, it's no fluke I became a writer and photographer. It's not. I mean, what else am I going to do other than something creative? Right. Because you live inside your head, you create your own world, your sanctuary. for me growing up was either on the ball field or in an art studio of some kind. I took all the art classes you could imagine, but I also played baseball, and that was a nice outlet for a while until, it just, I think that ran its course, and I didn't find the solace and comfort on a ball diamond that I could being creative. So I was never going to become a banker. I wish. I wish. But it was never going to happen that I was ever going to be content in a normal 9-to-5 setting. It was never going to happen to this day.
Was there ever a job, looking back now, like you were just trying to find your way? How did you find your way into journalism? Maybe. It was
instantaneous. Well, I should say instantaneous. I was still in college, and I say journalism and telling other people's stories is really a calling, and it literally and figuratively was. I was in college before my senior year, and I had gone on a little bit of I had held down every summer in college I held down a job, but usually I'd have a couple week break before school classes started. So some friends and I, close friends, again, I have very tight circles, so it's rare, but I had a good friend of mine growing up, and he had a tight-knit family, and so they would on occasion, summer vacations and stuff, take me along. And we had gone to Memphis, Tennessee for a little bit of a break. I come back, and this is pre cell phones, iPhones, and all this. This is landline days. Before my senior year of college, I got a call from an editor at a newspaper, and I couldn't figure out why he was calling me. Called him, said, "Well, we'd be interested in having you come in and serve as an intern." And I said, "I think you got the wrong guy," because at this point I wasn't a journalism major. I don't think I had even declared him. I may have finally declared a major. I shouldn't even have gone to college, but it was one of those things. Back then, you didn't have a lot of options then, and your world was kind of limited, and your world was limited into the sense of what your teachers told you. Because my mom, I don't place anybody. She was just she's getting over the death of her husband. She's fighting cervical cancer. The last thing that I was going to bug her with, well, what should I do for a career? What should I do? So your options were, back then, it was either I could go to trade school, military, or college. And the trade school, my dad, that was his background. The problem was he died when I was so young. I was just starting to learn things. And I felt intimidated with the guys in trade. I thought, I can't do that.
What do you think was the intimidation factor? Just the
knowledge?
I didn't know.
Half of it was math probably, and how to measure. They say measure twice, cut once. Yeah. Well, if you saw my SAT scores, I'm not to brag, but the verbal's pretty darn good.
Yeah. My
math was half that. So you can imagine.
Yeah.
The I never will forget the guy at this one university, the admissions person. He said I've never seen a SAT score like this.
Wow. Off
the charts verbal math. It was like this. So it's either they were like, this is either a mistake, or you are very gifted in one area and not in another. So they actually had me write an admissions essay. They didn't do that with this. They didn't do essays for admissions.
Really?
Well, it was the school I went to. One of the schools I applied to was fairly prestigious, and I just did it on a lark because I thought they wouldn't accept me. And they're like, "Well, we're intrigued by it. We'd never seen anything like this." So I had to write an essay. I wrote the essay, and they said, well, you are a gifted writer. And they said, well, this explains your SAT, why the verbal was pretty darn good and the math was not good. And so and I never can remember left brain, right brain, but whatever side of the brain that leans toward the creative, I can hold my own. The mathematics side, literally the only thing that I can figure. Now if you give me Now, I can figure out baseball statistics in my head. Go figure. I can figure out batting average, earned run average, and all that kind of stuff. Anything else, you don't want me doing your books. That's why there's been management positions I purposely turned down, because there was going to be a lot of budget involved, and you probably don't want me doing that. Right. I'm good fiscal with my own personal income. I mean, I'm responsible, but I don't think you want me managing $1 million budgets. It wouldn't be a good thing.
So you're on the phone with this dude, and you're thinking,
yeah, I'm thinking they got the wrong guy. I think I had just finally declared, it was communications, but with a marketing specialty, because I thought, well, worst case scenario. I thought maybe in college, originally, I didn't know what I wanted to do in college, to tell you the truth. I thought, well, because the artistic end of things, I thought I can't. When I saw how good the artists were in college, I thought, well, I can't hold. I didn't know what I was going to do, because I couldn't hold my own. Trade school, I didn't have the confidence with that. I knew I had just started learning before Dad died. Dad could do Dad had an HVAC business, but he was also a master carpenter. I mean, he built homes on the weekends for him. I mean, he built one of our homes on a weekend, not on a, but on the weekends, right. Evenings and weekends, he built our home we were in, and it was effortless for him. And I thought, I can't. I was too intimidated by those guys. The guys, because at the time, the high school I was going to had a very large vocational program. At the time, one of the biggest in the state. These kids were really good. They were skilled mechanics. They were skilled carpenters. They could, they were just really. And I was intimidated by them. I can't. And there's no way they'll laugh me out of the place. So trade school was out of the question. Military, there was no way that was going to work. I respected it very much, but I'm very much a free spirit, and so I am disciplined, but I don't particularly like being told what to do. Yeah. So there is that rebellious side to me, and that's not going to work. Thankfully, yeah, I mean, you had to register. To this day, if you turn 18, you're a guy, you got to register for the draft, but there hasn't been a draft in my lifetime. Well, not since I came of age. Would have come of age at 18. There was not a draft. So I thought that's not going to work. So go to college, didn't know what I wanted to do, was very creative, very artistic. And I thought, okay, what I could end up doing the thought was I could maybe, back then, the internet still wasn't around, so print was very prevalent, and I thought, I might want to be maybe work in the advertising department of a magazine or something like that. Just something maybe having to do with the magazine business of some sort. Never dreamed. I was not in high school. I was not on the school paper, not yearbook, nothing. Never. I enjoyed reading the newspaper, loved magazines, but I loved magazines more than newspapers. So I thought, maybe I'll do something with magazines. Editor calls from the paper. He said, be interested in you being an intern. I said, I think you got the wrong guy. And he said, well, no. Yeah, one of your professors said that you write well, and we would be interested in you coming in and, and we'll talk to you. And I said, well, but I'm not even in the journalism program. And they said, that's okay. I said, but there's people in that, don't you want? And they said, well, to be brutally honest, there's really nobody in the journalism program that we feel is right for our newsroom. Wow. Okay. I go in, I interview, I get the job, I get the internship on the spot. I wasn't really excited about it, but it was a paid internship. And so I thought, well, okay. Can work through the school year, and it's a pretty, for the type, and I've always done, even though I didn't have confidence in the trades, I always, my way I got work through high school and college was always blue collar, hard work. I would do stuff that other people, roofing jobs. I was the gopher on a roofing crew, and anybody that's done roofing knows the gopher on a roofing crew. That's not glamorous, and it's hard work. I've worked on hot asphalt. I've done all the grunt work you could do on job sites. But I did it because if you worked hard, and especially in the trades, one of the secrets are keep your mouth shut. If you work hard and keep your mouth shut, you'll always have work.
Right.
And to this day, I've had to get second jobs at time in my journalism career, and I've always gone back to the trades. Now, since being young, now I know how to do a few things in the trades. So I've always gone back to make a happy buck if need be, if I was between full-time journalism jobs. Anyway, I digress again. Go to the paper. I thought, well, okay, my senior year of college, I'm not going to have to do any hard physical labor, because to me, sitting in a newsroom and potentially writing stories or just being a gopher there, I thought, well, that's pretty easy money. So I went ahead and said, okay, I'm going to do it. The first night, my orientation was, okay, we're going to ease you into this. You won't even write your first story for the first 6 months. You're just going to basically help out, and you're going to be basically it's a clerk in a newsroom. Back then it was basically a secretarial position as you're learning the trade of journalism, because again, I am green as can be. I had to learn all the lingo. I didn't know what a lead was. I didn't know what inverted pyramid. I didn't know any of the journalism lingo because I wasn't a journalism major. First night, I'm there. I'm told by my editor, it'll be 6 months before you even write your first story. Don't worry about it. Relax. Just observe. And I thought, well, I can do that. A phone rings. The one editor is on the phone. You could tell he wasn't real pleased. He had a quick meeting in the conference room with a couple other editors. They called me in the conference room, and this was like I got to work at 6 that night. That was the other thing about the intern position. It was a night gig, so it wasn't glamorous by any stretch. This was about 7:30, I think. I called in the conference room, and to make a very long story short, one of the reporters called off sick. They were short-staffed, and I was getting a battlefield promotion after an hour and a half. They were moving me from intern to basically, back then it was a cub reporter. I was a cub reporter. I got promoted in 90 minutes to being a part-time reporter, and I had to write, and I had my first byline that night.
Wow.
Well, the next day in the paper. But that first night I wrote my first story, and now 33 years and almost well more than 4,000 bylines later, here I am.
Oh my God. So take me to that when you're there and they're like, okay, you got to go cover this. Yeah. What is running through your mind at that very moment? Are you confident? Like, okay, I can. I know you're green, but like, what?
I thought, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I think the best advice somebody gave me, I think somebody gave me that night, was just pretend you're having a conversation with a friend and tell them and recount that as you're typing. And they said, we'll help you with the style things. We'll help you with all the little nuances. Just do like you normally do. I was adept at research papers and essays, and they said, just do what you normally do, and then we'll go over the fine points of journalism after. And they said, don't even worry about we'll edit it for you. Tomorrow we'll sit down, or tomorrow night we'll sit down and we'll go over, okay, here's your raw copy, here's the edited, and then we'll just point out what you need to work on. And I have to think now what I had to do. There were just little things. It wasn't a hot mess from what I understand, from what the editor said. No, he said, he said, you're going to, and I think the first week I turned to him and I said, could I make a living at this? He said, oh yeah. He said, you can do this for a living. And so from then I went back to started college. That we started in September. I started that job in August. My senior year, I shifted. My communication major was more you could concentrate in an area. It was journalism I was a journalism major with a minor in marketing. So that all, and then that particular year, I split time between. I was exhausted because I would take my classes, then I'd go to work at the paper, and so I was writing all night and classes during the day.
Wow.
And I've consistently I've drawn some kind of paycheck, whether it's part-time, freelance, or full-time writing. And that's how I first got in the business, was strictly as a reporter and writer. The photography comes later.
What do you think is the number one thing if somebody's looking at journalism, as far as like just somebody who reads the newspaper every day? What's behind the scenes? What do you think they don't realize about journalism and what they're reading, everything that it takes to get?
Well, I think first and foremost, there is, on the big picture thing, there's such animosity toward national mainstream media that there's a tendency, people blame all the ills on society on the media. Well, that's only a small fraction of working journalists. Most working journalists, it's a small town journalist. It's somebody like myself who's a community journalist, who you're a cheerleader for your community that you're in. You want it to succeed. You want it to thrive. I'm not out there looking for the gotcha pieces, or I want to bring somebody down, or I want to, topple government, or that's not why I do this, and that's not why I'm in a community like Wabash County. I'm here because I want to be here. I like it. I enjoy it. I very much am fond of the people, and I want the community to succeed. And what part can I play in that? Now, obviously, when bad things happen, or maybe somebody does something that is illegal and they break a law and there's a crime, yeah, I've got to report it. Am I thrilled about it? Not really. I mean, I've covered the heavy stuff and the serious stuff and the dangerous stuff. I've been there, done that. I'm at the point in my life now where I thoroughly enjoy the more feature pieces, the arts and entertainment, the creative side of things, when a community has something good happen, to share in those victories. So I would say that. I would say anybody reading the paper, watching TV, I think they need to understand, outside of New York, LA, and Washington, the rest of us, we're very much trying to do our job to the betterment, hopefully, of the community they're in.
Very good. That's a very great answer. I was thinking about, you're talking about how, in this community that we have a lot of amazing talent,
yes,
and amazing just organizations that you're able to help through reporting on, and through getting these stories out there. And you've worked so hard in your career that you kind of get that choice to be able to cover what you kind of want to cover.
Exactly, yeah.
Not all the time, but...
No,
yeah.
I was told when I took this position that I was going to be given, part of the deal was that I'd be given total creative freedom to what I want to do, because that's how the newspaper business has changed. This is a one-man operation for Wabash County. The days of, the first newspaper I worked in, we had 30 people in the newsroom. Now it's a newsroom of one. I can't do everything. I can't cover everything. I can cover the important meetings, the essential governmental meetings I've got to cover. Outside of that, I'm going to pick and choose things that I think are interesting. And I've got a pretty good sense of what others who read the paper find interesting. So I'm going to do a lot of that. There'll be meeting stories when a story warrants being, having an effect on people. There's a lot of meetings I go to I'm never going to write about because, to be honest, there's really not much that happens that's going to really interest a lot of people. And nowadays with YouTube, if you miss the meeting, you can watch it on YouTube, and people can see for themselves. And they'll see, well, I don't know how you could write a story. Well, you're not going to write a story about certain things. I go to some meetings, they last 15 minutes. Sooner sit down and, meeting adjourned. You're not going to write anything about that.
What do you think is the difference between what people watch on the news and what you're actually reading in a newspaper? Is there, beyond obvious reasons that one's a newspaper and one's a TV,
Right.
but is there something different with a newspaper?
I think that for the most part, if done well, the writer is more descriptive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's some TV people, especially the, it used to be in the older days, some of the networks had sort of an on-the-road reporter, and he was a feature.
Mm-hmm.
And they would go and they would do more in-depth pieces and the sort of the, there was a journalist years ago, Charles Kuralt, and he had a segment called On the Road with Charles Kuralt. And he would go to small town America, and he would do the stories from the most unique things you could think of. But I always found that interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The real challenge is finding something that 90% of the people won't find interesting, but kind of swaying them and say, "Oh, I never thought of it that way." One of the best, and here's a great example: the difference between TV and print. One of the best stories I've ever written, to the point, or not I've written, that I've ever read. I'm sorry. I wish I had written it, because I actually wrote the reporter and said, I said, that was really good. I'm jealous because you did a fantastic job. There was a guy with the Indianapolis Star, and you got to go back now, probably 25, 30 years ago. He wrote a story about the street guys with the street department in Indianapolis, and one of their main jobs, they were the roadkill crew.
Oh, wow.
And on the surface, you'd think, oh, what a crummy assignment to do a story on that. It ended up being one of the funniest, most interesting stories I've ever read, to the point of I emailed him and said, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm in a complimentary way envious of the job you did, because I said you took something that was, again, on the surface, you've got to be kidding me, and he just turned it into an absolute gem. Again, a TV could have done it, could have done something like that, because you would have had the visual end of it. But again, roadkill isn't the most visually appealing topic. But the writer did a fantastic job. And that's one of those things, again, where you can take a topic and you can, if you can figure out what direction you want to go, it could be a very interesting, funny, compelling, heartwarming. It just depends on the writing.
How did you create your voice as a writer?
That took some time, because in the old days of journalism, it was very much fragmented, in the sense of you had beats. You had certain areas that you covered. A particular newsroom, like the newsroom I worked in, you had a government reporter, you had a police reporter, you had police, schools. We had education reporter, police reporter, government. We had a reporter specifically just for courts. Then you had the features department. Then you had sports department. You had editorial. So there was a lot of different specifics for writing. Mm-hmm. And I covered, for a number of years, I was a business editor of all things. That's really funny. Me, a business editor. But I was able to take a potentially dry topic and make it interesting. So that's where I started finding my voice, and my style was taking a beat that wasn't the most sought after. Mm-hmm. And that seems to be a reoccurring theme in my life, sometimes not taking the most enviable things and turning it into something that, oh, wow, this is, the proverbial lemons in the lemonade.
So take me into your mind for a second. When you're looking at, you've got those not likely to be the best beats.
Yeah.
How do you start working in your mind? Okay, I'm going to turn this into something somebody will read and
Well, get
enjoy.
to know the people, because even on the business beat, there are characters and they have personalities. You just have to search them out. There are a lot of bankers with a great sense of humor. Mm-hmm. There are And I can say this coming from a family of bookkeepers and accountants. There are bookkeepers and accountants with personalities. My grandfather and mom are two of the funniest people you could have ever wanted to met and have met my grandfather, meet my mom. Very, very humorous, great sense of humor. And so there are people with sense of humor, personality, stories to tell in any profession. So the challenge was on the business beat as a business editor, try to find those stories and then still report, the important stuff. Yeah. Because again, you're dealing with people's money. They do turn it may not be their favorite page, but there are some people that was back then we had sections of newspapers. So I had an entire section of the newspaper every day. And so people did turn to the business page. And so you had to have the basics and the who, what, where's, and why's and how's and all that good stuff. But in there, you could do interesting things. And so I tried to do that. So again, taking a kind of occasionally dry topic, try to make it interesting, try to make, humorous where it was warranted, could be. But there's a fine line.
Yeah.
Especially when you write with humor. That's hard, especially in a newspaper, because there's a fine line between humor and just silly.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I never wanted to be silly or throw away a story. So it was a good training ground.
Yeah, that's fun. I mean, you're learning on the job. Now, I've talked to you about journalism before because that obviously kind of sparked what I'm doing now in a different sense. I am no professional at all, but I enjoy helping tell people stories. And I was thinking about when in conversations that we've had before, the topics that we've talked about is everything from literally writing to the things that inspire us to write. And we talk about picking up our camera a lot. Now, in the process of journalism, you picked up your camera and became a photojournalist. Yeah.
That was I have an art background. Prior to the photography. In school, I took just about every art class imaginable. So before I could take a picture, I could draw, paint. I'm not very good at sculpting. I could do some graphic design work. And so there was the artistic side of me, the creative side. And I remember my first newspaper job, my desk was next to the photo desk. And the guys in the photography department, I really thought they were cool. There's something about them. And they all were they kind of had that, they just had a vibe to them. They had a swagger. And I thought, they're really cool. And I'd watch what they did and I'd see them, because back then the reporter and photographers went on assignment together. So a lot of the times I'd ride with them. And got to know them, got to know the photographers better than the other reporters, because I was spending more time with the photographers. 3 in particular, which all 3 were as talented as the next. And all 3, quite frankly, should be in the Hoosier State Press Association Hall of Fame. They were that good. Wow. That first newsroom I worked in was an all-star lineup. It was amazing. And one editor is in the Hoosier Press Hall of Fame, Journalism Hall of Fame. So I was very fortunate to have some of the best in the business that were training me. But those photographers, and back then you had a staff of 4 full-time photographers.
Wow.
Just on that's cool. Amazing. Yeah. That's so cool. I mean, but we published 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The photographer desk in the area was next to mine. So like I said, I really watched them and I learned a lot. I ended up getting was gifted an old 35 millimeter Canon camera. And I just started taking pictures for the heck of it. And I would ask the photographers questions here and there about what they did and why'd you do this, why'd you do that. Learned very quickly, and this is pre-digital, learned very quickly how much I hated developing my own film hated the dark room, hated it. I'm one of those people that, and there's, Ansel Adams was a master in the dark room. Mm-hmm. I was not. Now that's where I enjoy technology. I'm not the biggest technology fan, but what I do appreciate now about technology is the ability to edit digitally. I'll take that any day of the week over the dark room. I hated the chemicals. I hated the smell. I hated the whole thing. Like to take the picture, like to compose, but was more willing to hand my film off to a intern and you develop it. It's okay. You can develop it. I'm fine. And so didn't enjoy that. And I know there's an art to that, and it's probably stuff I should have studied more, but I just didn't enjoy it. But in time, I took more and more pictures, developed a knack for that. And then as the advent of technology came about and the internet and all of that, we start seeing now a decline in print journalism and a decline in the number of jobs that are available. Mm-hmm. So you had better be versatile. Mm-hmm. And 20-some years ago, if you could write and take pictures, you were in pretty good shape. Mm-hmm. So I was able to get work and keep work in one capacity or another, whether it be with a publication or a marketing. I worked for two different universities. One of them I was in the news bureau, rather large Big Ten university, and they had their own news bureau. Mm-hmm. So I was a writer and photographer for them, and I was able to do a lot there. And then went in and out of regular full-time journalism, but being able to shoot my own stories, I was able to get work.
So what makes a good photojournalist, as far as what do you look for when you're out shooting? I mean, that's how we met, was at what, Founders Day? Was that when we first met?
No, I introduced myself to you at Founders Day. That's when we first actually met. The first time I saw you would have been at some sort of production. Okay. It would have been Whacked.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
You were, it would have been, I can't remember, but that's when I first became aware of you, and then I eventually introduced myself to you at Founders Day.
Okay, so when you're at events and you're looking around and you're trying to find the shot, what do you look for to help? Because photojournalism is all about being able to tell a story in just that image, in
one frame.
Yes,
and there's a knack and a talent to be able to tell a story in one frame. It's not easy. Mm-mm. To have a lot going on in a frame, but it not be busy is a fine line. Mm-hmm. And the way you do that is just practice. Because I can't, the thing about it is you can say there's hard and fast rules, but you can occasionally break certain rules and it looks great in a picture. Mm-hmm. They'll always say, well, don't center your subject dead center. Well, sometimes it works, especially depending on the background you have.
So if you're going to cover, say, Founders Day.
Yeah.
All right, you could just cover the parade.
Could, yeah.
But that's not just the story.
No, you want to walk around. You always, when you're a photojournalist, you want to be mobile. Mm-hmm. You want to be mobile. I've got a backpack and my sling bag. I don't walk around with a ton of lenses. Mm-hmm. I have 2 lenses. That's the most I ever move with. One is affixed to my camera. The other's in my sling bag. Mm-hmm. And then most of the time, I will shoot with just the one lens. And it's usually it's the distant one. It's the 300. Zoom. It's the zoom. People go, what, how do you shoot up? Well, there's ways you can shoot closer with the zoom, depending on the angle and the lighting and all of that. Just for me, a lot of times I hang in the background way back. That's why I've got the zoom in, because half the time people don't know. If it's a public event, you're out in public, everything's up for grabs shooting wise. Now, if it's a child, I will go afterwards and say, is it okay if I use this? Mm-hmm. And 99.9% of the time they're fine. Mm-hmm. Actually, they're thrilled. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm going to start with myself and work my way out. Again, I've got a backpack, I've got my sling bag, and I am mobile. Mm-hmm. I am ready to move. I'm ready for anything. So I am ready to get into all sorts of positions and contortions to get the picture I want. I'm looking for unique things. I'm looking to tell a story. I am concentrating on expression because you see so many pictures, and the average person, it's far away. It's let's cram as many people into the picture as possible. And it's just, I call it a team photograph. It's a lot of team photography, let's get as many people, and that to me, okay, well, all right. Mm-hmm. That just doesn't do it for me. Right. If you look at my work, if you go on Facebook and you look at my work, there's a style to the photography.
Oh, for sure.
And it's typically going to be from, if it's of an individual, most of the time it's from the sternum up, because I want to see their expression, because that's going to tell us a lot. Now, obviously, if it's the ballet, I'm going to get full body. Right. But even then, I've gotten ballet shots, it's the waist up, because the hands do things that are just as interesting as the legs. If I'm shooting a concert and if it's a guitar player, I'm going to shoot a shot that I hope a guitarist appreciates. And most of the time I'll have a guitarist reach out and go, "Oh, I like that shot." Yeah. You know, that's the other thing, and this is where I'll drive your listeners nuts, because I veer off.
I love it. I'm
it's
fascinated.
like I'm like talking to when I'm talking about things I'm interested in. I'm like a pinball machine, because it's just ricocheting. Mm-hmm. Because you can't. The thing that drives me crazy is, okay.
We've talked about this before.
You have people in the profession who are journalism professors and that teach. Mm-hmm. Well, and they have all these rules, and it's just I don't get anything out of that. It's the people that are actually out there, and it's the unique and interesting advice that you can get from them, and that's the tidbits I'm interested in. So again, know what you're shooting. You don't have to be an expert, but you have to have, even if you think, boy, this is going to be dry, try to find something that interests you, and that's going to come out in the picture. Everybody's got a story to tell. This may be their only time ever in the spotlight. You owe them that to make them look good. You owe them that. And a compliment somebody once paid to me, and it's fairly recently, she came up and she said, "You know what?" She said, "You can make sometimes a mundane topic very interesting with your pictures." And I said, "Thank you. That's the biggest compliment you can pay me."
Oh, yeah.
Because there's some things that, again, on paper, oh boy, what am I going to do? So there's the challenge for me, having done this a number of years, is, okay, how can I take something that could be dry as dust and make it interesting? Now, there have been assignments I've gone on, and it is just, there's not much I can do with it, because the subjects, they aren't really into having their picture taken. And when they're not into having their picture taken and they're not enthused about what they're doing, there's not much I can do. But if I've got even a boring topic and somebody is really into it, then I can work with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I notice about your work is it's so micro.
Yeah.
Like, it's very much the miniature, or the little stories behind the big story.
Yeah.
And I like that because it just brings depth to your story in a whole other way. And that's something I look at your work a lot, because obviously I admire your work and what you do. And you have been so gracious with advice with me in our conversations.
Well, sure.
And that's one thing, having somebody so talented to be able to sit down and talk about these things with, and to ask questions. When I came, for the listeners, I came to him asking about journalism, because I thought I would love to get into journalism. And he was like, "Just ask me anything. There's no dumb questions." And ever since that day, I've just like, for somebody to be that upfront about everything.
Yeah, and I'm more than willing to, with somebody like you, willing to share the secrets of. There's really, writing wise, there's no tricks or secrets. It's just practice and hard work, and a certain amount of God-given ability. The photography is really the same thing. Now there are tricks.
Yes.
There are tricks that the average person with a point and shoot or with their iPhone they don't know. I'm willing to, with another photographer, willing to share my tricks. I mean, I'm going to retire down the road. I've got nothing. I got nothing that I'm holding on to that, I'm going to hold on to this and nobody, I don't want to share this and it's all mine. I mean, if you want to ask me, how'd you get that shot? I'm more than willing to tell you. And some of the stuff, it's like, there's one particular in nature photography that I do that people would go, oh, you got to be kidding. No, it's that simple. And then there's another shot in photojournalism that I do. People go, oh, I never thought of that. Neither of which involves an SLR camera. And we'll just leave it at that.
You're not going to share that one.
Not on, with you off mic, I will. But there are some tricks with an iPhone that are
pretty good.
The iPhone's pretty nice to have in a especially in tight quarters.
Yes. Oh yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk about nature photography. I could talk all day, but we need to keep moving on this.
Okay.
Tell me about nature photography. When did you always loved to hike, but when did you decide I really like the nature? Because now you're selling prints in all these places, and it's
there's
beautiful.
people that don't know it's interesting how a career comes full circle or veers off. There's people out there that that don't know that I'm a journalist, that I'm a photojournalist. That's how I make most of my living.
Yeah.
is either as a writer or a photojournalist. I'm not a fine arts photographer. I'm not, I don't shoot wedding. I wish I had the temperament to shoot weddings, because that's where the big money is these days. Big money in wedding photography.
I don't want to.
And I don't know any. I don't know a lot of my friends who are professional photographers that are even shooting weddings, even though the money is so huge. Oh my gosh, stress personified.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, anyway, there's a whole segment of people that follow the nature photography that have no clue I'm a journalist, and there's people that know me only as a journalist that have no idea that I'm a nature photographer. I got into the actual photography. I've been hiking, for decades, and started taking a camera with me quite a long time ago, just to have something to take with me and to preserve the moment, a little souvenir of that particular venture outside. And Greetings from the Trail, which is a sort of a regular occurrence on my Facebook page, came about a number of years ago, and I had to be on social media because of my job, and I thought, well, how can I? Because there's a lot of negativity in social media. How can I put something out there that's a positive? So I just started doing these Greetings from the Trail posts. And the early incarnation of it wasn't particularly. They were about as much snapshots as you could imagine. They were just snapshots and nothing to write home about. But there started being some interest. People thought, oh, that's nice. And I took a little bit of a break from social media. I came back and I started doing that again, and just more interest rose in it. And I started taking the actual photography end of it while hiking more seriously, because there for a while I just take an iPhone out and take a quick picture and be on my way. And then a while ago I'm like, well, you're limited with an iPhone. I can only do landscape with an iPhone. And I thought I'd kind of like to have some other things. So I started taking, again, the most I'm going to hike with is a 300, because it's around my neck, and it takes its toll after. I mean, you can,
for sure.
10 miles with a camera around your neck takes its toll. But I was able to get some shots that resonated with people, and the thing just took off, and I started taking that more seriously. And so what I did was challenge myself each time I go hiking. I want to have one decent photograph.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, I haven't been able to do that. Now, if you look at the greetings from the trail, no, wildlife-wise, it's not going to compete with. Haven't you had Rhoda on your show?
Yeah, Rhoda Gary.
No, it's not. I can't compete. It's not going to be the same. I can't imagine the amount of hours she spends.
If you haven't listened to this episode, you need to.
She's sitting and she's going to places and with the intent of, well, I'm going to photograph this particular animal, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, what I'm doing is very different. I am the game. It's a game to me in a fun way. It's a little challenge I have. I'm going on a hike. That's first and foremost my priority. I'm going on a hike, and whatever presents itself on the hike is what I'm limited to. So I'm not hiking with anything other than what's on my back. And the only time I'm stopping for any sort of to sit is I take halfway in a hike, I take a little break, anywhere from 10 minutes to a half hour. And so I'm stationary then. Now, I happened to get one of my most favorite pictures of a deer while I was sitting having brunch. I heard a rustling behind me, and I looked, and I thought, oh, you got to be kidding me. This has landed in my lap.
Yeah.
And I slowly turned my camera around and got a beautiful picture. But again, I'm very limited by time and equipment. I'm not hiking with a powerful telephoto lens.
Yeah.
The day will come when I retire, when I can have the time and the equipment, and I can sit perched for a while and get tighter shots of birds and tighter shots of animals. But right now, that's not going to happen because I'm hiking with 300 lenses as heavy as I'm going to carry around my neck. And I'm certainly not going to lug a high-powered telephoto in my backpack or carry it. That takes away all the joy out of the hiking because, again, the first and foremost is to enjoy the hike. If I get a picture, fantastic. I fortunately have never walked away from a hike and gone, I have nothing. And even if it isn't the greatest picture in the world, there it is. Because I want to inspire people to go out, enjoy God's creation, and if they're also into nature photography, take a picture. Don't worry about the clicks and the likes and all of that. That'll drive you insane if you're on social media.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than taking a picture and going, and thinking to yourself, and again, I'm my own worst critic, and I have zero self-esteem and all that kind of stuff. But there's nothing worse for somebody like me. You take a picture and you go, and even you are going, well, that's pretty good. Yeah. You post it, and the needle doesn't move, barely moves.
Right.
But then you'll post something else, and you go, for me, that's a C grade. I'd give myself a C, and there's a little bit better reaction to it.
I've definitely done exactly that, even just with personal stuff. And I think, this is going to be something that'll catch people's attention. And I think, and it doesn't.
And it doesn't, no.
And I think it's those moments. And you do question yourself, which is such an interesting dynamic, because in the moment, you love it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you're like, wait a minute.
Well, and then what happens in social media is you've got people out there that there's some people that there's some people that they're nervous about, well, I don't want to click like everything you post because I don't want them to think that,
Oh, yeah. Isn't this a weird mindset?
If I click like too much, then I don't want them to think that I'm looking at everything they put. If I'm posting it, I want you to look at it.
Oh, for sure.
And if you like it, click like. It's fine.
What a weird time that we live in. It's such a weird
there's the whole thing that, and this is where
we're going on.
That's fine. There's the whole thing where, okay, if you're dating somebody, you don't want to like everything they post because that means you're clingy. Well, if it's my photography that I'm posting, I want people to like. I don't care who it is, like it.
We just went on a whole. We got on a
But
rant.
no,
Sorry.
but it's true. It's true.
It is.
And it's not like I've got friends, they like if it's decent, they like, and I don't, great, thank you.
Yeah.
And then I have other friends that they like nothing I post.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, but yet then they'll tell me, "Oh, I really like your stuff." And it's like, but literally, I have Facebook friends. I have people that I know, as they say in real life, people I know in real life that never have ever, quote unquote, liked anything I've ever posted. And it's as an artist, because there is a side of us artists we're doing this because we want people to enjoy it. Mm-hmm. So the feedback is nice.
Mm-hmm. But it is nicer, I think, when a person comes up to you and say, "You know what? You've been really crushing it lately."
Yeah, it is. It's very nice and sometimes surprising because again, these are people that I didn't even know you followed. I didn't even know. Good to know.
Thank
you. Good to know.
Oh. Well,
no, I've got and. But again, if this is something somebody wants to do with their photography and put it out there, you're going to get better. This is a discipline. This is a craft. This is an art. The only way to get better is to consistently do it. You are not going to pick up a camera, take a picture, put a camera away for 6 weeks, take another. It isn't going to work that way. Mm-hmm. Now it's an old adage. You have to spend 10,000 hours on something to master it. Mm-hmm. And of the things that I do or know what other people do. I just had this discussion the other day with a professional musician, Abby Thomas. Mm-hmm. We just had this conversation about having to do something 10,000 hours to master it. And that is true. Yes, there are prodigies that can pick up something right away and be pretty good at it. But the rest of us, while we may have a natural ability right away, to get to a certain level takes a lot of practice.
Well, it's honing and finding your voice in it.
Your style, most definitely. Being comfortable within your own skin as a person and as an artist. And that's hard.
It is.
Because a lot of us creatives, takes a lot of years before we were even comfortable in our own skin.
Oh, that's the truth.
And a lot of people, and I tell young people who are just kind of all over the board, and maybe family members don't really understand, well, they may either consider them flighty or flaky, or they can't settle on some. Well, no, they're trying to figure out who they are. Mm-hmm. They are creative. They're artistic. It's going to take them long. We've established they're creative. Mm-hmm. That's a given. But what we then have to do within that is figure out who they are. Mm-hmm. And that takes some time. Yeah. Because once you figure out who you are, once you're comfortable in your own skin, that's when the art will really take off.
And that's so true. And when you explain that to somebody who doesn't quite understand this creative journey that you're in constantly in life, the moment I felt absolutely comfortable on how I looked, who I am, what I love, and I'm okay with saying this is what I love and this is what I don't like. Yeah. And like, it's amazing what click happens when that. Yeah. As soon as that happened, everything shifted for me. Yeah. Even just day to day, my experience of life shifted, and how I looked at things shifted, and it's so true.
I had a job once where you had to have short hair, clean shaven, and wear a tie. And that particular job was the most money I ever made in my life. But I was ready for the nut house at the end of that, because that was so not me in that job, that I thought, I can't, never again will I have a job like that. And it was stifling. And it wasn't terribly creative. It was very corporate, just very uptight. It was supposed to be a creative position, but it wasn't. And I thought, never again. And I got to grow my hair back out, and other than going to a funeral, I haven't worn a tie since, and it's been 15 years. So
Well, do you think where you're at right now is the most in your life in general, day to day, just who you are as David Nelson? Do you feel the most yourself than you've ever been?
Yeah, good, bad, or indifferent. This is as me gets.
Mm-hmm.
But having the wisdom to I'm nodding, and I shouldn't be nodding on the podcast without the vid. There's dead air because I'm thinking, and I can't. That's not good in this.
Don't worry,
medium.
I can edit.
Yes, I am comfortable in my own skin. I'm comfortable who I am, but I'm also comfortable that now that the rough edges have been polished, and I pick and choose my battles now, and can do that and walk. I can walk away not having to have the last word, not and letting others think whatever. I no longer care what others think about me.
That's so interesting, and I interrupt you for just a second because I've talked to the only other man that I've talked to is my dad on this podcast.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to hear women's point of view on this kind of subject, and actually to hear a man speak about saying, I actually cared what people thought.
I lived my life for years about what others thought.
It's so interesting to hear your perspective on, I've talked to my dad about this stuff, but it's your dad. They'll share things with you that most men are not going to share, maybe just all the time. Well, I'm to the point
now in life, quite frankly, if it helps somebody, and if it helps a young man that's listening think, or it helps a young lady listening. No, I spent so much of my life trying to win the approval of others. And when your line of work is out there for everybody to see, and you're a perfectionist, that's not the most fun combination, because if you misspell, when I started in journalism, we had no spell check on our computers. There was no spell check. You had to know how to, it still had to be perfect. And so initially you were just a nervous wreck the next day. I hope I didn't make a mistake in my story. Hope I didn't make a mistake. Hope I didn't make a mistake. And there's a fine line with being a professional and doing a very good job, thorough job, and just constantly living in worry about, well, did I make a mistake? Well, you're eventually going to make a mistake. Only one person that ever roamed this earth that was flawless.
Yes.
And as my mom said, and ironically, here we are in Passion Week, look what they did to him, and he was perfect.
Yeah.
So I am not Jesus. And once there's a great line in a movie. The young man's talking to a priest, and the priest says, there are two things I can tell you that are definite in this world. He said, number one, there is a God, and number two, I ain't him.
Yeah. Words
to live by.
That is good.
And so I've always battled the desire to please others and to be a perfectionist, that's a bad combination.
What was the switch in your mind?
The job that I left 15 years ago, and I happened to be turning 40 at 40 to me was a liberating age. I turned 40 and literally let my hair down, literally and figuratively let my hair down.
Yeah.
I had longer hair in my younger years, got the jobs that had dress codes and this, that, and the other, again, short hair, clean shaven, ties. And, the good paying jobs, sometimes there's compromises to be made. And it's not always compromises in the sense that it's morality or ethics. It's compromises in who you are and what you enjoy. Turned 40, I quit, much to their probably shock. Some weren't. It was a job. It was interesting about the job, and I won't say where it was. But the interesting thing about that job is the more money I made them, the more I was demoted. It was bizarre.
Very.
I started off in a beautiful corner office, and by the time I was done, I was in a windowless cubicle. So I don't think the powers that be were upset when I resigned. I think it was because I couldn't get I did a good job. And I finally, years later, asked somebody that worked at the same place, I said, what didn't they like about me? And they said, well, they just didn't feel you were a mission fit. And I said, I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
So.
You don't like being told what to do?
Well, I'd like to think I'm very responsible and I'm very competent.
Yes.
And I don't need to be micromanaged. And the worst situations work-wise and even, well, personally, personal and professional is the last thing that I can tolerate is somebody breathing down my neck and micromanaging. It ain't gonna work. I will come out with fangs bared and claws every time.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna be a good thing.
Yeah.
And people that just know me superficially or just very in passing, I'm very congenial and I'm very polite and I'm very well mannered and I'm very professional. But like I said, if provoked,
yeah, well, yeah,
there's a side of me that will stick up for myself. And if it's something I believe in, if it's something that ethically I think something's wrong, then I will speak my mind. But as you age and get older and more mature and more wise, you tend to put yourself in positions where you're not really going to have to deal with that as much.
Picking your battles is a real thing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Or picking somewhere to work where this is going to be a good fit for me. And it may mean taking less money or it may mean this, that, or the other. But in the long run that your quality of life, that's more
important.
More dovetails better with yourself. There's a lot of people, they're chasing that brass ring and it's money first, everything else second. And that'll eventually catch up with you. It will eventually. Now, for some, they don't care. It's who finishes with the most toys wins. I can't live like that. So,
well,
and you make decisions and you make sacrifices, and a creative life is one where you are going to go without at times. You're not going to. I don't. Just to be very candid, people be shocked what I make. It's not much. I don't make a great living in journalism. When I do my freelance stuff, I make, depending by the hour or whatever, that's good money, but it's not a lot because I'm so busy with my regular job. So people that are in the arts, people that are creative, people that are blessed to be able to make and be working musicians, working artists, working journalists, working photographers, if you can make a living, that's quite something because it's hard. The world famous photographer like an Annie Leibovitz, that are making a fortune, or a writer, author like John Grisham, they are few and far between, the millionaires in the arts. Obviously the actors and but again, that is so skewed and lopsided. Many of your working actors are not making $10 to $40 million a picture.
I think your insight in the creative side of things is what makes your writing in journalism and covering the shows locally and the artists locally so much more raw and more insight in a sense, because you can feel the passion when you're reading your work. And I think that's an amazing I guess, characteristic of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I'm one of them. I'm one of you guys.
Yeah.
I write for a living and I take pictures for a living. Now, that is an art form. That is people's journalism. Well, they think it's just who, what, where, when, how, but there's a creative element there, especially nowadays when you're it. You better be creative. No, are there some journalists that are creative? Not really. They just are who, what, and their stories read like that, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But nowadays, especially with a weekly newspaper, it's more of a magazine style. People can get the who, what, where's, and how's right away. It's just like the tornado that we had come through Wabash County just days ago. If you're listening to this, we just had a tornado in the Fountain just a couple days ago. Now, the people within a matter of 24 hours, and in this case it was a little longer because the National Weather Service investigation took longer. So within a 48-hour period, people were going to have the basic facts. Well, when this story comes out in a couple days in Wednesday's paper, some of that, I mean, that's a give. They already know. So I've got to present this story with a human element to it, which weren't going to get on social media. So I went out to the lady's house that had damage. I spent time with her, and I was able to present a tornado story beyond just the storm, how it impacted one individual. And that takes a bit of creativity.
Well, even your photograph that you took and put on social media, I don't think that's the one you're probably going to be. I don't know if that's the one you're going to use.
That's the one I'm going with.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yep. Even that itself had there was something to it. There was,
and that's one of the pictures where it tells the story, and there's a lot going on in that picture, and there's a lot of detail, but it's not overwhelming.
No.
Because the way I shot it was, I was focused on Dixie, and if you notice the background, the focus was on her.
Yes.
The aperture was on her. The background was not in focus.
Right.
But you could make out some of the damage.
Yes.
I mean, you can make out that the tree was in focus, she was in focus, but if you notice in the far background, there was an outbuilding that was tipped over.
Yes.
But that wasn't in focus. So you saw a lot of damage without it being overwhelming.
Right.
And so therein lies the art of telling a story in one frame, as they used to say when we used film. I
think that picture is going to be, more people need to check out your work in general.
Thank you.
So I'm going to wrap us here because, of course, we could talk a long time. But where can people find your nature photography, just you in general?
Just go on Facebook and type in David Nelson. If you type in David Nelson Wabash, it's going to pop up. It will pop up immediately, and you can send me a friend request. And you can, the only thing I post on my social Facebook, the only things I post is photography. I go to events in Wabash County. The photographs are all positive. The bad stuff that happens, I don't post. The certain things, and people say, well, a tornado is bad. Well, if you saw the picture, it was more a life-affirming picture.
Yes,
I took a bad and put a positive spin on it, and then with the caption, it makes sense.
Yes.
So what you're going to see, the photojournalism end of things are very positive events that are going on in the community, and it's just a guy walking around with a camera, capturing the moment. It's not hard-hitting journalism. I'm not making any political statements, nothing like that. So that's the photojournalism. The other things is the nature. And it's either greetings from the trail, or sometimes I'll put my gardening stuff out there. There's, that's it. That's all you're getting from me.
But you can buy his
people
prints.
Are going to my Facebook let's get to know him. Yeah,
you're not going to.
You're going to see stuff going on in Wabash County, and you're going to see nature.
Yeah.
You will, once in a blue moon, I might appear in a picture, but rarely.
Not a lot. It took him everything he could to stand in front of my camera today.
Ain't gonna happen.
It was a lot. Well, where can people buy your prints of your nature? We want to get those out.
You can go to the visit Wabash County Welcome Center, or you can go to the Wabash Museum.
Now,
Wabash
don't you
County
have
Museum.
an exhibit that's going to stay in?
Yeah, there'll be a permanent exhibit at the Wabash County Museum on their waterways exhibit, and I'll have some of my work that will be permanently displayed with the waterways exhibit.
That's going to be
I can't
amazing.
remember the exact name of the exhibit, but that's going to be ribbon cutting will be for that in the next few months, sooner than later.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, it's really neat. Yeah, they do a fantastic job at both the museum and the visitors center. Visit Wabash County and the Wabash County Museum. Those two organizations and places are jewels in this community. They can hold their own. If you took them and put them anywhere else, they can hold their own, and they would be a jewel in those communities. People in Wabash County need to realize, if they don't already or understand, we have some amazingly gifted people in this community putting out some really quality product
Yes.
or events or experiences.
For sure. Well, thank you for coming on here. Thank you for taking your
thank
time.
you for inviting me. I thoroughly, other than having my picture made, I enjoyed 99.99% of the evening. So and the 0.1 was having my picture taken. I don't like that. So
well, I have to say thank you for everything that you do for the community, everything that you've done for me, just as a personal, just talking to me about journalism and just encouraging me and giving me advice. It's been a real blessing in my life, and I just want to say thank you for that.
Well, thank you, and I apologize to your listeners if I rambled. I have a tendency to, if I'm excited about something, another topic will pop in my head related to, it's all related.
It is.
It just veers off.
Yeah, you just gotta keep up.
If you ask me one question, it may go off into another topic, but believe it or not, they're related. They're interrelated. So.
Well, I think we did a pretty great job, so
all right.
I'm glad. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, because I sincerely did. I am incredibly inspired every single time someone walks into my studio and sits down. I am able to look in their eyes, and I am welcomed into their story, and that is priceless. It is a great honor and also a great responsibility to think that when they said yes to come onto my podcast, that meant that they trusted me. They trusted me enough to allow me to help tell their story, and to me, that means the world. So thank you to my guest. If you'd like to connect with my guest, if they left any or mentioned any of social media or websites, it will be in the description box below, as well as on my Facebook and Instagram if you want to see what they look like. I have a portrait and a small little write-up along with anything they mentioned within this podcast. So I hope today that you have been inspired to look at your own life and to see that just living your life is important. But I want to inspire you as well to actually document your life. You have an importance in this world, and I want you to use your voice. So it doesn't have to look like 6 pages in a journal or being on a podcast. It can look like a line a day. If you'd like to connect with me, make sure you head over to hereinmytime.com. That is where I have a bi-weekly blog, as well as some of my portfolio work with photography, and where you can also contact me through email at hereinmytime@gmail.com, as well as follow me on Facebook and Instagram. This is at Hereinmytime as well, here.inmytime for Instagram, and I have weekly content. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world. And until next week,